Welcome to YouTooSpain, broadcasting live on YouTube. On today's show, I'll be asking our very good friend Chris from Upsticks Drive all about how to bring your car to Spain and register it if you're moving here. He'll answer all of your questions and we'll find out any changes and updates you need to be aware of. And we'll also have the results of the two recent Upsticks polls and also one that we did on YouTooSpain. And we'll be asking you to come up with the next polling question. Join in on the live chat, or if you're watching the video back afterwards, in the comments below. There will be loads of information from beginning to end, so stick around for the whole thing. You're all very welcome to YouTooSpain. Let's dance. Groovy baby. Right then, just before we get chatting, as usual, don't forget to sign up for free to the monthly newsletter from our website, YouTooSpain.com. That's just gone out for February. So if you sign up now, you'll get the one for the start of March. There's loads of stuff on there for you to read at your leisure, links and resources too that you need for your move to Spain and for living here. And a quick mention for our friends at Smart Currency Exchange, who have the best Trustpilot reviews of all of the companies. I highly recommend them to fix you a forward exchange rate. So what does that mean? Well, you're going to find out on February the 17th. That's in 2 weeks' time, when we'll have our mate, Jack Wiggs back on the show to explain all about that. But if you need to know in the meantime, use the link below to get in touch with him for free. And you can get a free account with them. So you may as well do that straight away. There's no obligation. It really does help to do that well in advance of your move. Doesn't cost a penny. And it helps YouTooSpain out too. It's a win-win-win with a cherry on top. Of course it is. Now, without further ado, let's meet my wonderful guest for today. It's Chris from Upsticks Drive. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. How you doing?
Oh, pretty good. Thanks. How are you?
Yes, we're all good. All good.
Lovely. And actually, we have to say, because this show is being streamed on your channel as well, Upsticks YouTube channel, this is your 200th video release, isn't it?
It is.
Woohoo!
Yeah, my 200th video release. So I'm not too sure if that includes shorts and stuff as well, but I think it does, doesn't it?
It does on my channel, yeah. They count the shorts as well.
Brilliant. Wow, yeah. So this is video number 200. Doesn't seem long ago since we're at video number 100, but yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. If you do loads and loads of shorts, it just goes up really quickly.
Yeah.
So everyone hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to Chris's channel too. And you've also just passed 2,500 subscribers as well. That's
with the help of your podcast that we did, which was fun. That was good. Just let our hair down a little bit on the channel, and that pushed it to, I think we're at 2,507 now. So we got off the back of that video, we got around 10-15 subscribers. So that was cool.
Excellent. Well, glad to help. One of our watchers in particular said, Skatz, you look really an awful lot more relaxed when you were on Chris's channel. That was really nice to see. And it's nice to hear as well. The thing is, when I'm doing this show, I've got like a flight deck of things I have to do, and I have to keep watching. For example, finding out who's on the chat. I didn't even have that screen open yet. So, yeah. And also, first thing in the morning when I do this show, I've had a cup of coffee, whereas when we did Chris's show, it was in the evening, and the coffee had worn off by then. So that's what I'm normally like. This is how I was on Chris's show. But yeah, that was really good fun.
Yeah, we'll have to keep it to evening. We'll definitely do another one, and we'll keep it to an evening as well.
Yeah, I think we should do a live evening show, especially for people in the US. Because we have had a question about bringing your car over from America, and I don't think that person will be watching until they wake up much later on. So I don't know what coast they're on.
That'd be good. That'd be a good idea. Yeah, I think the evening shows are recordings work. So even like when we did the podcast, because we recorded it in the evening, I'd sort of finish work for the day as well. So you haven't got that. You've got the next day in your head, but you haven't got the immediate things in your head either, have you? So
yeah,
when you finish, you're going home, so you're a little bit more relaxed.
That's right. Yeah, we were going to have Lara on the show as well, because she's she's spearheading the Upsticks Drive part of the business at the moment, but she's not very well, is she?
No, sadly no. She wanted to come on, but she's got this old flu thing going, and so her and my daughter Isla are both wrapped up warm in bed because they've both got it at the moment. So
yes.
But yeah, she's been at the forefront of it. Well, I sort of sit behind the scenes ever since she's come into the Upsticks Drive party, and but we will get her on.
Brilliant. Yeah, be good to see her. Let's see who's on the live chat then. Good morning from Adam Farmelo from sunny Wolverhampton. He says he might even watch the Fiesta. I say with all of the rain you're getting, they probably don't even need to watch the Fiesta. And Andy Cooper, good morning, and Anton Kez say hola todos. They're paired up on their channel as well, so they're watching from your channel and my channel. That's what they normally do. Watch both of them at the same time. Good morning from Jed Tierney, and good to see it's the Dream Team on today. Fabulous. That's what I tell you. Should we do that? We'll call it the Dream Team from now on. And Marie Vague, nice name. Always great info from you both. She's paired up as well. Terry Gibson, waving to you and clapping to you both. Enjoyed your podcast. Lovely. We enjoyed it too. Morning all from Mike Ripper and Maria Provenzano. Good morning to you all. There's lots of people joining at the moment, so that is lovely. And when you get the answers to your questions in a moment, folks, remember to smash that like button, as all of the annoying people on YouTube say. You can do it now if you want while I'm rambling on. And have you got any more shout outs for any one of your clients, Chris?
I think you gave Terry a shout last week, but I did want to say thanks to our mate Terry. He's a big fan, and he's just got his renewal in. And I was out on an appointment. I know the King family who we did their renewals for them, and I know they watch the channel, and making a conscious effort to actually meet people this year. Where we just spend an awful lot of time locked away, behind the scenes, don't you? So that effort continuing and just getting out, and actually meeting people that you only see the passport photos. So it was really nice to get out and actually meet them.
Yeah, isn't it wonderful? I must do that as well. And that's what your podcasts are all about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's just trying to keep up to date. So we're still going to do the punctual information and there's bits and bobs, but just going through what we're doing on a weekly basis, things that come up, because I thought I'm going to struggle for content really, because it's just a job. And loads of things come up, and the more and more we're talking about it, like Jane says to me, you should mention that, or you should do this. So it's sometimes the insignificant stuff to us is actually important to people.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to apologise, by the way. I did say I'd bring out my video diary podcast on Fridays. I didn't have it finished for last night, and I am going to finish it today. And you'll see why I didn't get it finished when you watch it. I'm not going to spoil it for you all, but it's a pretty important one. So look out for that. That should be later on today if I get it finished. Although if I have to go to the emergency department at the hospital today, it may not be out till tomorrow. So you'll find out why I said that when you watch it. There we go. There's the big build-up. Here we go. Actually, I'll just put in Mike Ripper. He said, dare I mention the dreaded motorhome word so early in the broadcast? No, you dare not. We'll put that. We'll answer that one later on. Of course, Mike. And we'll talk about that later. And Robbo says, good morning all. Morning, Robbo. Watching this morning with the wife as she's home from work with a chest infection. Oh, bless. Well, we send our love to you. Today's show, then, we're going to divide into two halves. Well, as usual, we always have a break in the middle, but in the first half, we'll talk about what to prepare before you move to Spain, if you're in the UK, for example. And we can look at other countries too, like the US, because, as I said, I know at least one of our watchers wants to know that. So, Chris, then, what are the three main things to prepare before you move? And just take us through the details.
Yes, I mean, we always... we speak about those three elements, don't we? But when we're talking about the preparing to come over. Obviously, it's quite a bit you can do at the front end if you're going to be, if you know you're going to be bringing your vehicle, specifically a car, over. So the first thing on the technical side of things, and actually motorhomes, we do need to bring up, because Terry was watching. I'm sure he won't mind me telling everybody about his ITV nightmare, which just highlights what they're like. Basically, we need to tell them, everybody, about that. Is the technical side of things is getting the vehicle preparing, but it's more the financial preparation we get here nowadays. So for modern vehicles, years and years ago when we were doing the vehicle registrations, it was quite easy because most vehicles had halogen headlights, right? Mm-hmm. So you can normally switch them out, and worst case scenario they'd be like €500 each or something like that. Yeah, but obviously over the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen vehicles come in with LEDs, all sorts of weird and wonderful headlights, which aren't as easy as just to plug and take out and put it back in, are they? So the first thing you would need to check, especially if you're bringing a more modern vehicle over, is how much is it going to cost to get the headlights either realigned, adjusted, software. Like now, it's software a lot of the time. So, and you can only go to the official manufacturer to get that done, the dealerships to get that done, or if you just need them replacing. So a lot of people can just actually go onto a cheap website. There's a couple of cheap websites here where you can just actually buy a halogen unit and replace it like for like. So that used to be 90% of the cases. Now it's a case of you've really got to check before you come, because if you're bringing it for change of residence and it's low emissions, the likelihood is it's not going to cost that much, relative to buying a new car. But then, if it costs you, say, $1,400-1,500 to import your car, but then it's another $3,000 to get your lights done. Well, that's one of the things that is worth researching before you come. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is something that would always be done, shall we say, over here in Spain. You bring the car and then you do it. But now, more and more people, especially with the more technical lights, are having to get that done before they arrive.
So headlights are really big. Are there any other things that technically you have to change?
Yes. So if you've got the fog light on the rear, if you've got double fog lights, that's fine. If you've got one in the middle, but if you've got one on the right hand side, which is where you overtake in the UK, that's not allowed. It has to be on the left. Okay. So because we overtake on the left in Spain. Now again, the normal vehicles, actually, a lot of the time there's space to switch the lights around. Sometimes you have to switch the units around. But we have seen now in more modern vehicles that it's just not possible, because the wiring configurations and the software on the vehicles doesn't allow you to do it. So especially with more modern, what you're seeing now, also there's been a car shortage, isn't there, of new cars? So people are ordering cars from post COVID times, and the technology that's coming in now. You need someone to, when you change a light bulb, you need someone to flick it off on the machine. So it's just not the same as it used to be.
Wow.
And this brings me to what we're going to talk about later on. Things like at the ITV test, they now plug the vehicle into a machine. If they see a fault, then it could be a fail. So all these, if you've got a modern car, it's definitely worth speaking to the dealership to say, look, if I do just rip that light out and put another one in there, is that going to create any faults or anything like that? And most of the time they can be cleared. It's not a problem, but it's worth noting that there are things that are picked up on.
Okay. What else to prepare then?
There's crazy things like in the UK they put window tints in cars and they don't have the European stamp. So that's not allowed here, believe it or not. There are some companies here which will either remove and put ones in with a European stamp, but just check that if you've got anything that's aftermarket on your vehicle, it's worth checking, because a lot of the time they just don't accept that here in the ITV stations. And on the technical side of things, obviously, we'll talk about the change of residence, because it's very difficult when you come to Spain as a change of residence, and if you come to Spain as should we say just a normal import, that actually affects certain parts of the homologation of the vehicle as well. So I did write notes.
Good. Good, because I've got very little here. You're in charge.
5 minutes, where are we? Oh yes, and now we're talking about the paperwork as well, weren't we? With the so we'll talk about the technical side. The headlights being the main thing, but the paperwork side of things as well. If you're bringing the vehicle for you're taking residence here, remember you have to have been the registered owner for more than 6 months. Okay, now there's always this confusion with the DVLA because the registered keeper, that where it says it on the documents, the registered keeper, they consider that here as the registered owner. Now we know in the UK the owner isn't necessarily the registered keeper, are they?
Mm-hmm.
Right, slightly different. But 99% of the time, or 90% of the time here, when the proof is when you're going to customs that you have to prove you've had that vehicle for more than 6 months. For relatively newer vehicles, they also ask for a purchase invoice or sales contract as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually you who bought that vehicle. And if you've got private plates on the vehicle, it's worth actually taking those off before you come to Spain, because if you start the registration process, complete it with the private plates on, you might find that you can't, once it's been deregistered in the UK, can't move those plates to another vehicle. So you retain those private plates before you start the process. So it's always best to do that at the point of origin. Get that done in the UK, get your old plates back on the car, make sure you've retained that plate somewhere else or just on the system to put it somewhere else before you come over.
I was just thinking when I moved, when I moved from the UK to Ireland, there was a difference in the amount of tax or whether you paid tax, some particular kind of tax, if you'd had the vehicle for less than 9 months or something like that. You had to prove that you'd bought it more than 9 months ago, and therefore you didn't pay some kind of tax to the taxman in Ireland. Mm-hmm. Is that something that you need to think about well in advance if you're thinking of just buying a car 2 months before you move, for example? Is that going to make a difference? Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, it will do. So when you come here, so talking about the talking about that. When you bring, say you, for example, you're coming in on an NLV, mm-hmm. You bring your car in. They call it here rolling, so it's a rolling import. You just drive over, yeah, but it still has to go through the customs process. Okay, so the customs process can actually be managed by an agent. We have an agent in Barcelona. It's very good, and they help us. They work nationally. And what the agent does is it's very similar to what we do on many fronts of immigration. You take all the paperwork and present it to them, like for the renewals, the NLV and stuff. They do exactly the same to the taxman, specifically for the import process, for customs process, which means that we have to create a file to give to them to prove that the vehicle it qualifies for a VAT and duty-free import. Okay. Mm-hmm. So a VAT and duty-free import, you have to prove 2 things: where you've come from and where you're going to. Obviously, where you're going to Spain. Now, the Spanish side is actually quite easy because part of the residency process is you get your visa, you then get your padron, you then register for a TIE card, and then you've got all that proof that you're actually here. Okay, but the leaving the UK part isn't as easy as what it used to be, because before, we used to have a document called a Bajo Consular, which was issued by the British consulate in Spain to say you'd gone there, declared your residency in Spain, and this certificate was for the taxman to say, oh, he's actually been and declared that to his authority. Mm-hmm. Yeah? That no longer exists. Now, that hasn't existed for 11 years, and they keep asking for it. So we've got a letter from the consulate, British consulate, they gave us 11 years ago, which was, we kept on file, thank goodness, have to print it off every time. It says that we have stopped doing this. So you have to provide other forms of proof. So the other forms of proof are, I've actually got a really, really good PDF that we send to clients that I'll be more than happy to put the link to. So remind me.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you that. To me, it's so long to do it, but it is quite good.
Yeah.
It basically explains exactly what what we need. So you have to prove things like where you've lived. Okay, so you can have utility bills, etc., from the place that you've come from, and you also have to prove that you've informed the tax authorities. So something like a P85, you have to check with your accountant first that you're doing the right thing. The P85 is you informing the HMRC you're actually moving to Spain.
Mm-hmm.
We find that really works. Now, lately, what we've found as a really good proof of address is the ACRO. We had a couple of questions from the customs agents. But hang a minute, for NLV clients, we've got a criminal records check with the address. What more do you need if you're a customs agent? And as soon as we send them over, say like, check this out, they're like, oh yeah, it matches up with a couple of bills and blah blah blah. Yeah, criminal records check, apostilled and translated. Can't get better than that.
Yeah.
It's sort of an incidental from an NLV. It's actually working really well with the customs, believe it or not. So that works. So you have to prove where you've come from and obviously where you're going to get tax-free import.
Brilliant.
What you would have had to do in Ireland, I imagine.
Yes, that sounds exactly right. Yeah. So I'll just go on to the live chat before we move on. I like the name of this one, Saxtabulous, featuring Jude Madden. I presume you play saxophone in a band there. That's lovely. Like to hear that. Send us a link. Say, good morning. We have French registered car, originally a UK registered right-hand drive. Is that any easier? We were able to use adhesive diverters on the headlamps. Is that acceptable in Spain? That's a big no for that last question. Yeah,
unfortunately, no, you can't. It is easier because your vehicle is now registered in the EU, so it's an EU import, so you don't go through the customs process. You go through the customs process is only like the first bit. That proves the vehicle's been legally imported, that you've paid the dues on it if it comes from outside the EU. If it's coming from inside the EU, you completely skip that process, go straight to the technical inspection, but you won't be able to use adhesive diverters on the headlights.
Yeah, great. So that could be a lot cheaper in the long run there.
Yeah.
In the short run, in fact.
Yeah.
So, Robbo says Renault UK cannot get right-hand drive parts for left-hand drive cars as parts are based on the chassis number. Renault Spain have quoted me €2,400 for right-hand drive headlamps plus labour. Yeah, that's quite expensive.
Yeah, it is. And what Robert, that's a really good point, because what you have to be aware of, and this has happened before to us, where we've gone to a local supplier, and it's actually happened on 2 occasions a while ago now, but the local supplier, they said, give us the VIN number, and we're going, just remember, it is for left-hand drive lights, not for right-hand drive lights. You put that VIN number in, you're going to get the lights that match that when you go to the manufacturer, and they're going to say it's right-hand drive, So you need to find the vehicle, and they're like, yeah. Week later, lights turn up, right-hand drive lights. Actually says on the top of the right-hand drive, and I said, I specifically warned you about this.
Yeah.
Same happened here at Toyota as well. And they came, and I said, look, this is the documentation. And what we ended up doing was our technician, Jose, who does the certificate conformities, if you haven't got one from the manufacturer, you need a Spanish one, which you'll explain in a bit. And he found a vehicle which homologation was the same as the vehicle we had, but a different VIN. And that VIN to order the part, and because it was a left-hand drive vehicle.
Yes, Robbo's just corrected himself there, because he said right-hand drive parts. He means left-hand drive headlamps couldn't get. But yeah, you were just talking about that anyway.
Yeah, it's a very, very valid point regarding the VIN. You have to not assume that if you give somebody the VIN number, they're just going to turn up with left-hand drive lights for that vehicle.
Yes, great. Just a diversion here. This one isn't about cars. This one is from the Mailins. Hello, my wife's from Ireland and I'm from England. Is it possible for me to stay in Spain permanently? Well, I've got an Irish passport. My wife's is UK, and the answer is yes. But Chris, if you'd like to maybe elaborate a little.
Yeah, but you obviously have to get your residency. So you, as an Irish citizen, you already have the right to be in the EU. You just have to register that right and get your residency card, and your wife would have to then apply for her permission to be here using your status, which is a long.
Oh, it's the other way around. It's the wife that's from Ireland.
Oh, sorry. Your wife would have to get her registration here as an EU citizen, as a resident, and then you would have to apply for permission with her status.
We've actually got a video. I've got a video called Piggyback Your Residency. If you look for that on this channel, you will see a whole show with Chris all about doing that very thing. So have a look at that. And also you can get in touch with Chris at Upsticks, and he'll take you through the whole thing and organise it for you. There we go. Paul says, good morning, Skatz and Chris. Bit late joining today. How dare you? No, welcome. Good to have you on board. So, are there any more things to prepare for? We're on the preparation stage. Where did you get to on your list?
Yeah, I think the only other thing is, if you're driving over, just prepare. I couldn't believe, so we brought the Upsticks Drive mobile over. Well, my dad did. It was a joint effort, family effort. You know, the little Toyota IQ, and it's the first time we've actually physically bought them. We've always done this end of the job, but we've never actually brought a car over, and I've still never driven back to the UK. Something I would love to do. Or perhaps the other way. I think I'd like to get a car from the UK, drive back here.
Oh, much nicer. Yeah. It's because when you come off the UK bumpy roads and you get into France and you go smooth, it's just such a lovely feeling. But the other way around, trying to drive up from Dover to the M25.
I couldn't work it out with this car. So we were talking about it before the show, weren't we? So where's like the insurance and I think you had some questions about it as well. So preparing to come. When my father brought the vehicle for us in the end, because that's the only way we could actually get it insured from the UK to my doorstep. And then every day he was like, right, I've got my mission sticker for France. And I was like, yeah, have you? Do you need one? Yeah. Okay, so he sent me the website. I didn't realise he'd done all the research for France and the stuff you need to have in your car and stuff. Obviously, we deal with cars here. So, definitely make sure that none of it was needed, and the spare bulbs and everything else that was carried in the car. But definitely when you are doing these long journeys through other countries, a lot of research needs to be done as to what the actual requirements are. And I still can't get the mission sticker off. It's still stuck on. French one. It's supposed to take it off, but so yeah, I mean, that's something you need to prepare for, definitely. So apart from the technical side and the paperwork, it's actually getting here and making sure that your insurance and anything else you need for the countries you're traveling through is in place. Yeah,
great stuff. Oh, interesting question from the mail-ins. Are electric scooters legal in Spain? I've seen them around.
Tidying up a lot now. So depending on the size of the scooters, it needs to have homologation and go through a similar registration process as a moped.
What does homologation mean?
Homologation is, so if a vehicle has a vehicle in the EU has an EU homologation, EU conformity number. And that conformity relates to the specification of a vehicle. Okay, now what that EU number generates is a document called a certificate of conformity. Right, so certificate of conformity is the technical specifications for that vehicle. Right, so they say that all scooters need to have this now, and all vehicles that come into Spain have to have this. Yeah, now there's an exception there, but we can explain that in a minute. And this actually is a good point to relate to. We were talking about the motorhomes, weren't we? Because we recently had to abandon a motorhome import due to the fact that the ITV now picked up so finicky on 4 points. So the motorhome has two homologations. It has a stage one, which is the structure. So it could be a Fiat structure, what they call it, a chassis in English, isn't it?
Yep.
Chassis here, chassis, motor, the cab, everything like that. That can be from one manufacturer, and then you have the people who make the motorhome on top of that chassis. Right. And so you have stage 1 and stage 2 homologations for a motorhome. Yeah. So each of those homologations has a certificate of conformity, and that should describe exactly what is on the vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And recently we had a case here for one of your avid watchers where when it went to the ITV, they identified 4 things which weren't on the original certificates of conformity, which basically made it not worth bringing in. And they were ridiculous items which you would have on a motorhome anyway. Mm-hmm. One of them being part of the chassis, which is an electric step. So if you removed the electric step, leaving a gap like that and no way to get into the vehicle, they would pass the test. You know, and I'm like, you know, so I went to argue with them, went back to them and said, well, that's stupid, because I've got no other words for you. That's stupid. What can we say? They were like, oh, well, it has to be on the homologation, but it's part of the chassis, and the chassis is there. You can't have you can't not have a way to get into the vehicle. It's like, you know, having doors on the vehicle. You can't. You're supposed to put a step ladder there or something. Mm-hmm. There's no way that you would anyway. I said the electric installation's there, right? And the electric installation which moves that, which I'm assuming moves it because I don't actually see it move itself, but I'm assuming moves it.
Yeah,
is there on it? And they were like, no, it's just very, very finicky. But that is the kind of thing that they look at when they talk about homologation.
Okay. Computer says no, so they can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
So any more? Should we
answer? Tow bars in an homologation. If the number that you've got in your tow bar isn't in the certificate of conformity, they don't accept it.
Wow. So lots of difficulties. Any more difficulties with motorhomes? So we can answer Mike Ripper's earlier question.
Apparently now, if you've got a toll dog, which they're quite easy to get rid of, toll dog is a
canvas thing. What's it called? I can't remember.
Toll dog in Spanish.
Yeah, it's the thing that you pull out.
That's it. You have your dinner underneath it, don't you?
Yeah.
Apparently, they now have to be included in certificate conformities as now, which is ridiculous because they just hook on and hook off, basically. You know. So if you've got a certificate of conformity for stage 1 and stage 2, you have to have the electric and gas installations included in that, or you'd need a separate certificate from an electrician. Awning, that's it. Well done, Mike.
Awning, well, yeah, thank you. Thanks, Mike.
It's only coffee number 2 at the moment. It was a late evening, so.
I've only had 1 coffee, so I'm starting to slow down already. It makes me more relaxed, but it doesn't make me find words easily. That was a terrible sentence. There we go. It's getting worse. Let's go through what's Ant saying. It's one of Ant's jokes. It'll be awning on you, as in dawning on you. Yes. They're getting worse, and we need an improvement on the dad jokes. So, Ken says, Mike, this is interesting. My car has the option to switch the light direction in the settings. I assume that is fine and no change of headlights required. Is that?
Again, brilliant thing to say, which I didn't mention, is to check this, because we've had people doing this. You need to go to a garage which has, they call them here Canon machines. So basically, it's what they use in the ITV, it's what they use on an MOT to check the alignment of the headlights. And that's a great point there, because if you have got switchable headlights, or say, what happens is a lot of the vehicles flatline. And bear in mind now, what we have as well is, and this is another argument we've had recently with an ITV station, which we won, is because now people have intelligent lights. So it doesn't matter where you stand on the vehicle, they do that. And I'm trying to tell the guy, look, you know, they're intelligent lights. The reason you're stood there is why it's got a dip, because it's picking you up. So it's, these kind of things are really, really new. Bearing in mind that it used to be the only problem you'd have was if they've been set too high or low 10 years ago. Now it's a case of you've got cars which are smarter than laptops. So, but if you've got a option to flatline your beams or switch the direction of the headlights, go to a garage that has one of these Canon machines and the projectors. They check this beam spread. Now, if the beam spread is kicking up to the left-hand side or is completely flat, then that's fine. Yeah. Now we've had a few arguments with the completely flat headlights with Merc specifically, but the ITVM's like, no, completely flat is fine. It's when it slightly kicks up to the left that you've got a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing you have to be careful of, specifically with Mercedes cars and the E-Series as well, because a lot of people bring the E-Series of convertibles over, is that they do have a flat beam adjustment setting, but there's a slight kick. I mean, just the smallest of kicks in the middle, like that, which we used to get away with, and now it's a fail, because they say that kick, albeit the flat beam, there's nothing like that. The kick in the middle expands over a certain amount of distance and they just don't allow it now. So yeah, you have to be careful with it. If it looks flat, make sure you get it on that machine and make sure it's absolutely flat.
Good stuff. Oh, and Ant says, Tom Mucho, Kez agrees you need to improve your jokes. Of course, I'm sure she does. And there was another question up there that I missed, I think. Oh yeah, Robbo. I know Chris has said this before, but when bringing your UK car into Spain, how long have you got to get the plates changed and get the ITV done? That's something we were going to talk about in the second half, but let's do it now.
Yeah, cool. We can do it now. So yeah, you can't drive a foreign vehicle as a resident in Spain, but in the case of when you're coming up, Robert's going to be coming on an NLV, you also have this slight gap where you can't get the documents to get your temporary plates. So there's always, you first of all, as a tourist, up to 3 months, you can drive your vehicle. That's not a problem. And when you enter on an LV and you haven't registered your residency, that's fine, because you're going through the process of actually resident, and you're still essentially a tourist till you go to your TIE appointment. After that is when you have to make your inroads into getting your temporary plates and then registering your vehicle. You'll see there's a lot of false information. I've actually got a video on my channel which I'll plug, which gives my complete full opinion on this subject, on how long you can keep a foreign car in Spain. So I'll get you to, I'm going to send you all these links.
Yeah, groovy. I will put these in the video description below, everyone, so you can get to that. How long?
So have a look at that. But yeah, essentially, as a resident, you can't. As a non-resident, you can. So that's either before you've had your TIE card appointment. What happens, you can't get your tax waiver or your P plates before you've done your TIE appointment. And most of the time you need your vehicle as well. So during that period, you have to have all the documents on you proving that you're going through the process. And then if you've got to stop, then you literally are following the process, and you'd have a registration with a DGT, the fact it's going through, your certificate of conformity, and the import docs as well. So it's a little bit like your NLV. You start to build up a file, and you keep that file on you through the journey.
Yeah, great. And we have a question from No to Racism. Yes, indeed. Hi, I have a Seat Leon with LED lights, 2013 model. Will this need to be changed, or can I keep them for passing the MOT in Spain, please? Thank you both.
It depends on the beam spread. I believe it or not, we did one of these about just after Brexit, and they had to be replaced. In the end, we couldn't get Seat to get them aligned properly.
You'd think Seat would be the easiest ones to sort out, because they're made in Spain, aren't they?
They got replaced with Desquathy. I'm struggling today. Desquathy is a scrapyard. That's it.
Yeah.
Scrapyard. Like, so Seats are actually easier to find in scrapyards. So it's Seats are easy to find in scrapyards now. So, but yeah, you'd have to check with the manufacturer, check with Seat. But we did actually have one of these. Really nice guy from locally came with his family just after Brexit, and we had to switch the lights across.
Great stuff. More questions before we go for the break. Is Stephen Smith. Morning, Stephen. We'd like to apply for my Irish wife's green card at Fuengirola next week. That's the EU resident card. Can she just turn up, or does she need an appointment?
Need an appointment.
There we go. That's an easy one.
Definitely, because the guy with the big moustache in Figueroa, we know very well, he's very, very, very strict. You have to be careful of him, obviously. He's not as angry as he looks, can I just say that? But
it's just the moustache that's angry.
You don't know how an appointment, he'll chase you down the road with a broomstick anyway. But he's, he's definitely an appointment. And make sure you 15 minutes before, stand at the bottom of the stairs in Figueroa and just look at him with puppy dog eyes.
Yeah. That's good. Puppy dog works. Mike's saying, follow-up question. So if it's an older motorhome and the certificates of conformity are no longer with it or never were, that would be a problem, I guess.
Well, if you brought it over, then you would have to get a Spanish technician to do you the equivalent of certificate of conformity, which is called a ficha técnica reducida. The only thing with the ficha técnica reducida is that not all technicians can do them because they don't have the information that's needed. So you have to find a specialist who deals with motorhomes, really. There's one company here actually in Malaga who do it, and most technicians are run away screaming from it, to be honest. They don't want to do it. Right.
Maria has a question. She's talking about a US registered vehicle, and that's handy because that was going to be my next question. Have you gone through all of the changes that need to be done on UK vehicles?
Yeah, I think so. So we've done the headlights. Let's do the headlights. We've done the tints on the windows, haven't we? Evidently, you've got to have kilometres per hour in the speedometer. That's something that you need to make sure you've got. And a lot of people get confused with the digital element of that, because sometimes it has miles per hour and a digital in the middle. So that's definitely worth noting when you go to the ITV. Also, if it is possible, and it is on most modern vehicles, change your odometer reading from miles to kilometres so they can read it in kilometres, how many kilometres the vehicle's actually done. Albeit they can't fail you if it's reading in miles. They normally don't, but it's better to have it in kilometres. And then obviously we've spoken about extras, things like tow bars and everything. And the other big thing is, here in Spain, don't forget that you can't have odd tyres on the same axle, which is allowed in the UK. So you have to have matching tyres that meet the minimum required as per the vehicle specification. But in the UK, sometimes they don't have to. Here in Spain, they're very strict on it. And it always generates a question where people are going to us, well, I've just Googled this, and my tyre rating's for 170 miles an hour. Why is that? The one that I've got on there is like 120 miles an hour. I'm not even allowed to do that. I'm going, I know, but the specification says you need to have these. So it looks ridiculous because most tyre specifications take you up to the hundreds of kilometres an hour. I think we had one recently, which had an H on it, which, the person was like, I never drive that speed. I'm like, I know, but your vehicle is this, basically.
There we go. So, right, let's get on to the US vehicle. Sorry, Maria, I had to take your comment off because when I look back when I'm doing the time codes, I would have put this in the wrong place. So here we go. We have a US registered vehicle, 2017 Jaguar F-Pace. Lovely. Do you recommend we contact a Jag dealer here to figure out what exactly needs to be changed? We read that California has strict emission laws.
Right, so this is good to lead us on to the difference between vehicles with EU conformity, the vehicles without EU conformity. Right? So the only way you would be able to bring this vehicle into Spain would be for change of residence, because the change of residence waives the need for conformity. Right?
Okay.
Doesn't mean that you can do anything you like with the vehicle. It still has a specification. What it doesn't have is the conformity number. Okay, so in terms of how this relates to the emissions is quite interesting, because when you bring a vehicle from the US, evidently it doesn't have EU conformity. So by default, you have to get a Spanish technician to do a document called a ficha técnica reducida. Now, a lot of technicians, what they'll do is they'll find, if possible, they'll find a similar EU vehicle, like F-Pace Jag 2017. You're going to be able to find that and use the specifications from that vehicle for their ficha técnica reducida. What they can't do a lot of the times, because it hasn't got EU conformity, is actually identify the emissions rating, right? So what happens is most of the time a 2017 F-Pace is going to pass the emissions test at the ITB. I'd be very, very shocked if it didn't, because it would be built to, as you say, low Californian emissions law. But when it's here, because it hasn't got the conformity, it'll pass the test, but because the emissions aren't on the certificate Ficha Technica, they don't put it on the Spanish paperwork, right? Mm-hmm. So they'll test it every time and it will pass, but the rating isn't there. Now, that affects the taxes, right? Because you only have a set amount of time to waive the emissions taxes. If you're coming from the US, most of the time you can never meet that time frame, which means you have to pay the emissions taxes, and if they're not on the registration documents, you go straight to the highest band of payment for these registration tax. So this is a big problem with US vehicles. It's getting the emissions tax waived. Most of the time you can't, because you only have a 60-day window to do it. I believe the tax office does it on purpose, because it's an EU emissions tax. So basically EU vehicles can come in, you can time it, and you can waive it. If you're coming in with an NLV, for example, it takes 45 days to get your card at some point, and they're expecting you to pass the IT. It never falls in to the timescale. So yeah, Jag dealer in the US won't be able to help you much, I don't think, regarding the emissions there. I think in 2017 you won't have a problem, but you might find that you have to pay a bit more tax this end.
There we go. Is there anything else about US vehicles?
No, I mean, the only thing is what you've got to be aware of as well is the light configuration. So in the UK, evidently you have right-hand drive problems. In the US, you have problems with side lights being the wrong colours. So you don't normally have a problem with the left-hand drive configuration because it's a left-hand drive vehicle. But here we have orange side lights. In the US, generally have red side lights. So we've had it in the past where there's been vehicles that, and then what happens is, this has specifically happened as well with the Jag, which you've seen, is they had a different color intermittentes, blinkers, the
indicators.
Indicators, that's the one. And blinkers. Okay, blinkers. I don't use blinkers a lot here in Spain, I can tell you. I don't even know why they bother putting them on cars.
Yeah.
And they're in the back of the unit. They're in a unit, right? So the unit, okay, you replace the unit. That's fine. It's a red blinker, and we need an orange blinker, not a red blinker. It's fine. We change the unit. Of course, the unit comes out. The European one turns up completely different wiring configurations. Mm-hmm. So that's what you've got to be careful of as well. You think it would be plug and play. It wasn't. You know, it got fixed by an auto electrician, but it was completely different configurations, albeit the set, because it was a US market and EU market.
Wow, there we go. So a few things to look out for then. We'll go back to the live chat after we've done the mid-stage break. But before we go to that, we said we were going to have a look at the polls that we've been asking viewers. So we did one poll, we both did separate polls on here, all about applying for your NLV. So the question was, where will you be applying for your non-lucrative visa in 2024? So we'll put yours up first because mine got a ridiculously low number of people doing it. And it says 19% went to Edinburgh, 30% to Manchester, and 51% to London. That's from...
You're reading the wrong one.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, you.
Oh, that's the applying. Oh, no, you don't want to do that. Right, let's go to the other one. There you see. Another coffee needed, but I haven't got time to make it in the break. Applying, there it is. Sorry about that. There we go. Where will you be applying for your non-lucrative visa? There we go. That's the right one, isn't it?
That's the right one.
Yeah. Edinburgh 19. I was reading the right one, but I had the wrong one on screen. Edinburgh 19%, Manchester 30%, London 51%, and that's from 47 votes. So yes, what does that say? I mean, I suppose, is London the busiest area in general?
I was quite shocked actually, because I mean we have a 50-50 between Manchester and London. So that, I mean, I was really pleased with the reaction to that poll, because I've been experimenting on our channel with the community posts, and I've been going through my every single image on our anything that we do is original, so we don't nick anything off the internet. But so on that, I would like to say thanks to our clients, because they've been sending me the images of London and Manchester and stuff like that as I've been going to their appointments. And I've been putting like old images from my Google Photos on there, and they've not been getting a lot of response. But then suddenly I did the poll and it got nearly 50, and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a good idea. But yeah, so I mean, Edinburgh, that's expected, less people in Scotland, but I was shocked actually that London won that. I thought it was going to be more 50-50 between Manchester and London. So there you go.
That's interesting. Oh, mine, it was 50-50 between all of them, 50-50-50. But there's very good reason for that, and that is, just have a look at this. It's slightly ashamed of this one. There were only 5 votes. And there was 1 vote for Edinburgh, 1 vote for Manchester, 1 vote for London, 1 vote for I'm not resident in the UK, moving from somewhere else, and the final one was I have EU citizenship, so no visa required. And that's because I had people writing underneath the poll, I can't answer that because I'm not resident or I'm EU already. So I allowed them a column for themselves. Yeah, so a completely even pie chart on that one. So maybe I just didn't push the poll very much. I didn't share it very much. So there you go. That's all my fault. Let's move on to the other one then. And this was about where are you moving to in Spain? And that is there. So you put 3 different regions. Andalusia, which is where we are, 28%. Murcia, which is a smaller area, 22%. And Alicante has won it on 36%, although there's 14% for others. It says drop a note in the comments. Where were they moving to? Oh, that's a good question. Should have had this prepared. So here, that only allows me 4 options, you know, on the... on the thingamajig. Is this on Facebook? No, this is on YouTube. Okay, yeah. So only that, so I thought, okay, well, we'll do the three biggies to start with, and then we'll do the we'll do the options. The comments were the people, which I've got up here now, Andalusia and Alicante. So somebody had got a place in both. Lucky you. Somebody wrote Malaga, so that's actually Andalusia. Mallorca, we have somebody going to Mallorca. Robbo, you wrote who's watching Torrevieja, so that'd be Alicante. And Euskadi, so someone's going to País Vasco. So the two which are sat in that 14%, I don't know if anybody may voted who didn't comment. The 2 comments we got was País Vasco and Mallorca. Okay then. So yeah, it's just the odd ones. That is, I do hear a lot of people saying, I'm moving to not necessarily Alicante city, but areas within there, because it's a fairly big one, Alicante, isn't it? The region. Yeah, it's huge. Alicante's massive, and Murcia's becoming more popular. And obviously, Andalusia includes Almeria and stuff. So. Yeah. There we go. Very interesting poll. You can get more options on the poll that I did was strawpoll.com, and if you create one on there, then we can both share it from there. So then everything will go on the one poll. So maybe we could do that in future. And you get a pie chart with that one as well. Yeah, that'd be worth doing, wouldn't it? A joint poll on something. Yeah. So the question is, viewers, what would you like to be polled on? Yes, let's have a joint poll. Yes. And I was going to say sensible questions only, but maybe we can have some ridiculous ones as well. Let's have a bit of fun with it. What's your favourite tapper? Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh, I'll have to have a think about that one. There we go. So let's call this mid-show. I know we've been going on for 55 minutes already. We'll have to do a shorter second half, and I think it probably will be anyway. So it is time for a message from me and my alter egos, and Doogie Dog, of course, about the wonderful things available to you as YouTooSpain fans. So take it away, guys. This show is very helpful to you, isn't it? And you're enjoying it too.
Then click on the thumbs up, you lazy colonel.
I don't have any thumbs. You can use your nose, Doogie. And don't forget to subscribe as well. And rub on the bell for notifications while you're there. It's all free.
Information is valuable.
I need a coffee to keep my pecker up. So why not show your appreciation by buying us a coffee or 3?
There's a link in the video description below.
No, use the QR code. I own the company, you know.
No, you don't, Colonel. It's there for the whole show, sweetie. Just point your camera phone at it.
But wait, if you think all the help and information and entertainment you get here is worth more than just a few coffees, you can support YouTooSpain with a regular monthly amount.
You're not getting my money.
You don't have any, Colonel. You live in a hostel.
There's a link to Patreon where you can find out what extra groovy movies you get by helping out.
Oh, I'm all a quiver. One more thing.
Get on with it. There's a guest waiting. Goodness knows why.
The beautiful watchers are waiting too.
And the ugly ones.
That's enough, Colonel. There are lots of vital things that YouTooSpain gets you access to. And discounts too.
What things, Master? I like things.
Well, do you need private healthcare insurance?
Of course I do. This gout won't go away on its own, you know.
Do you need a visa or residency, sweetie?
Do you need to exchange currency?
What about finding a property like mine? It's huge and expensive.
Just like me, darling.
Ah!
Or do you need advice on tax and pensions? I don't know what they are.
Or do you want a Spanish mortgage?
Or a discount on getting documents translated and apostilled?
Or a lawyer to sort you out. I didn't do it, wasn't me.
Do you need a lovely little app for learning Spanish? How about finding the best mobile phone provider?
Buy a YouTooSpain t-shirt. It's a win-win-win.
You can even get discounts on full mouth dental treatment and get a new smile just like Skatz.
Smile!
All of the links are here, down below, sweetie.
If you can't find them, ask me in the comments.
Are you finished yet? I need to go and kick some servants.
He's not a very nice human.
No, he's not. But let's get back to the show, shall we?
Back to Skatz in the studio.
That was my line.
Oh, stop being beastly and be a good little boy. I am a good boy.
You are, Doogie. Back to you, Skatz. Thank you so much, the other Skatz, Walter, Dick and the Colonel and Doogie Dog, for joining us. And as usual, if you have any questions for any of them, ask in the comments and I'll see if I can wake them up for you. Now, we did have a very interesting question on Facebook, so I'm going to bring that one up. It's a question we've never had asked before, and it's one that even Chris had to look up because he's never done one of these before. How to get it was on the Piggyback Your Residency video, and said, I am a Muslim man, that should be, with 2 wives, and I am an EU citizen. Is it possible for me to apply for a visa for both wives? So, what did you find out, Chris?
Well, with a Google search, we still have to verify. It's basically no, that Spanish law only permits I've got it here, monogamous relationship.
Monogamy, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, read out what it says there.
It said, where are we? In Spain, the legal system is based on civil law and does not recognise
polygamous. Oh, polygamy, yeah.
Marriages as legal. Spanish law permits marriages between 2 individuals, regardless of their religion, but does not allow an individual to be married to more than one person at a time. This applies to all residents and citizens of Spain, irrespective of their religious beliefs. Spain recognises the freedom of religion as outlined in its constitution, and individuals are free to follow their religious beliefs and practices. However, when it comes to legal matters such as marriages, Spanish law adheres to a monogamous system. This means that even if polygamy is permitted under the religious laws of some communities, such marriages are not legally recognised in Spain. Evidently, we would need to verify that because I looked at it quite quickly, but I believe that is the case.
There we go. Thank you for that answer. It's one of the most interesting questions we've ever had on the show, I think.
I'm sure there's a mother-in-law joke there somewhere, but I'm not going to say it.
Yes, no, you might get into trouble.
Yeah,
So, yeah, let's look at the live chat then. Let's go back to some questions that we missed from the first half. Maria, who was talking about importing US cars, said we are legal residents now. Oh, so you're trying to get a car brought in after you've become resident, is that right?
That's actually, when you're bringing it through, this is the biggest problem with bringing goods through, is that people bring them before, but then it takes ages to get your paperwork here, and then they get stuck in that limbo where they're in stock. So goods come here, and especially from the States, and then you can't release them until you've got your paperwork in order. Yeah, so sometimes it's better, especially if you come from the States. Obviously, UK cars can roll in, so you're still driving it. That come from the States need to be released because they often come in a container. So being here first with your paperwork, as long as you're in that time frame of a year, because you've got 12 months to bring your things in, your personal belongings things, that's very technical, isn't it? Personal belongings in, then that can actually work in your favour. What it doesn't work in your favour is with this emissions tax we're telling you about, because you would have already passed the 60 days after registering on a padron and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that works in your favour, because if you're in that time period, you've probably got all your paperwork in place already.
Good stuff. And Saxtabulous says, what about insurance? Can you insure in Spain a foreign car while you're going through the process? That's an interesting one.
Some companies will do that, and then obviously other companies, when you bring in your vehicle, you can be covered for a temporary period until you get your Spanish plates, and obviously switch it to Spanish insurance. Spain offers this temporary plate system, which lasts for 60 days. There you go, I've got them ready. That was our temporary plates from the Upsticks Drive car, believe it or not. So you order them, and the moment you get them, you get Spanish insurance, and then that insurance policy switches to the final plates once you get them.
Great stuff. And the mail-ins are asking about the emissions zones. Has Spain got ULEZ type zones? Is that the French one?
I think that's the French one, but yes, they're coming in. Yeah, the law's been passed, and there's a certain determined amount of time for towns which have over 50,000, a population of 50,000 people, to start having restricted areas in them. And it's being phased in slowly. There's a massive push in Spain
Nope, we lost you. You sound like you're underwater for a minute there. It'll right itself in a moment. But yes, I know there's a few cities that haven't quite got it yet. I don't think it's completely rolled out in Malaga. I think Barcelona and Madrid were two of the first. But it's only the kind of the centre of town. You can still drive through Madrid on the motorway from north to south. I know that, without hitting the emission zone. But yeah, there are those zones, but they're coming in gradually. So you need to keep your eye on those. I just stay away from the centre of Malaga, really. But I've got, I think it's a C sticker on my car, which is all right. It was already there when we got it.
Yeah, and there's very few. I mean, by the time they roll out, there's going to be very few B stickers, which is causing the problems at the moment. If you've got C sticking, you're pretty much good to go.
There we go. Ken Fowler says, I'm coming in on the NLV, but will be spending a few months at home and have a car at home too. I presume that means in the UK. Is it possible to keep my UK licence also to make things easier regarding insurance, police stops, etc.? This is a big timing issue, and I think there's a few timing issues with regard to that. Bringing your car, registering, and then the change of licence.
I'm coming on an NLV, but we'll still be spending a few months at home. Okay, first of all, check the amount of months you can stay at home on an NLV. Remember that if you're looking to gain permanent residency, which we're going to talk about next week, then there's a limited amount of months that you can be out of the country but we're not going to tell you because you can watch that next week.
Uh-huh.
And then the next question is it possible to get my UK license also to make things easier regarding insurance, police stops? Well, if you take a Spanish test, then you can retain both licenses, or you can exchange your license for a Spanish one. Now, what I can say as a resident myself, I've had a license for Spanish license for 20 years and never had a problem in the UK yet hiring a car and driving it's never been a problem. Since Brexit, I used to use family members' cars, and it was a question of insurance. I used to be able to insure them, and now I don't seem to be able to.
But it might be a problem for Ken because it's a car registered in his name, but if he has a Spanish license, the problem with insurance. It's going to be a difficult timing issue. And then once you've changed to your Spanish license and the car's still registered on the UK license, you wouldn't be able to drive it in Spain. So getting it over would involve getting a UK licensed person to drive it through Spain to you, I think.
Which is what we discussed earlier, what we had to do. So there's two scenarios. Now, I don't pretend to be an expert on them. Can you all hear me okay? No?
Yeah.
I don't pretend to be an expert on UK law. It'd definitely be a policeman you'd have to ask there, but I don't think, as long as the vehicle's insured and you've got a valid license, the insurance recognises that license, you wouldn't have a problem. The problem is actually getting that insurance, because we actually considered, when I saw the cost of hiring a vehicle for 3 weeks last year, right, which was into the thousands, and I needed it to do a UK trip, buying a car. My dad was like, you could buy a car for that price, you know, but you couldn't insure it. For me, I couldn't get anybody else to insure it, and then the same when we brought the Upsticks Drive car across. Believe it or not, there was a way to get a temporary insurance through the UK that covered you in France, but when I get to Spain, being a Spanish resident, I couldn't drive the car anyway, so that was it. But yeah, could have a problem there, more of an insurance problem than anything.
Yeah, Stephen's got an interesting one. We intend to only spend 5 months a year in Spain. Well, this is interesting. This is a residency time in that you were talking about earlier, and the rest of the time in the UK. If my wife gets her green card, EU residency, and I get my TIE, and we bring our UK Volvo here, will it need to be re-registered here? I think the more important question is, if you're only spending 5 months a year in Spain, you'll have problems with your permanent residency and presumably your renewals as well.
But so if the wife gets a green card, which I assume is EU,
yeah,
right? But this is a question that we actually got asked this week. All right, so let's just forget for the time being that there might be a third country national involved in this. But it goes back to the old swallow's tail, doesn't it? You know, because here, as an EU citizen, as we know before Brexit, many Brits would come for 4 or 5 months over the winter. And the EU ruling is that if you intend to spend more than 90 days, then you have to register. Okay, so everybody calls it residency, but it's a case of the reason you have to register is because you're going over that holiday period as an EU citizen for the 90 days, and you have to make yourself known to the police. Okay, it's called a community registration, which we all call residency. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but we know that once people spend a lot longer than 90 days, but don't intend to be fiscal residents, so they never register. No one's controlling EU citizens coming in and out. And if you did get stopped by the police, you get slapped on the wrist and they say, when did you come in? Well, you actually go and need to register, but there's no fines implied. Okay, so definitely it's one of those grey areas where if I'm going to be a swallow, do I need to register? Yes, you should do. And then you should deregister. Most people don't. Now, in relating to the car, then you could have a problem, because what happens is you've gone over your tourist period of your 90 days, albeit you're an EU citizen, okay, and no one stamped you in, no one stamped you out. How do they control it? But locally, the police see a vehicle. If they see it for more than 3 months, and here, especially in places like Mijas, Figueroa, I'm not too sure in other towns how they do it. They register that vehicle, and that'll be on their system. If they see it 3 months later, that vehicle's getting lifted. I can tell you that now.
Mm-hmm. I've seen the police doing, roadblocks where they check loads of people going through, and they pick on the UK vehicles quite a lot in holiday time.
They do. So you've got now, before Brexit, okay, you had the fact that EU vehicles in other towns, municipalities in Spain, weren't really looking at them. They're EU vehicle. They knew that people were transient and stuff like that, you know. But now they do look at them because they come from a third country, and so no, you can't keep your car here for 5 months. It'd be a risk. Yes, you would need to register it, which goes back to that video, which I'm going to send you a link to, where everybody says on Facebook, oh, you can keep your car for 6 months. No, that relates to a fiscal law with the actual thing, the BM, the car. Okay, so it becomes fiscally liable for taxes at the 6 months point, but it's nothing to do with the actual registration process. It's what I explained in that video.
There we go. I'm not sure on the show whether we're going to get to the second half things, because we've got so many questions, but that is what we're here for, to answer all of these chat questions. Ian Butterworth says, I know you need a medical report from a doctor, but if you have an ongoing condition like asthma or COPD, will it go against you when applying for an NLV? So this is about getting private health insurance.
Yeah, I was going to say, let's just say the medical certificate is completely different to the private health insurance. So, the private health insurance, that could be a problem for the private health insurance. You'd have to speak to a company that would be willing to give you the relevant documentation having those medical problems. And for the medical report of good health, then that wouldn't be a problem. Yeah,
because it's much more serious conditions.
It's related. No, I mean the medical certificate, which is farcical. Let's be honest. You know, I can be honest, and let's hope that the authorities aren't looking. It's a farcical piece of paper because it relates to you having exportable diseases, which you could catch the day you walk out the doctors when you've got it. So, and it's valid for 90 days. So what they're saying is that you've gone and got this medical certificate. You haven't got rabies, but you've walked out of the clinic, and you're not going to get it for 90 days because that's how long the certificate's valid for. Stupid.
Yeah.
Haven't.
Doesn't make sense.
No.
And Robbo's actually kind of answered it as well, saying, hi Ian, it won't go against you, but when you get private health insurance, it won't cover pre-existing conditions. Very likely won't cover pre-existing conditions, I'd say. So what you might find is that you can get private health insurance, but it will but you won't be covered for any treatment for that. So you'd have to pay for the treatment for any conditions you already had. I think that's right, isn't it, Chris?
It is and you have to be very careful with this because in theory for a visa you need no exclusions. Okay, so you have to be very careful with this. But evidently we know since Brexit, there's been a lot of insurance products which may include clever wording to pre-existing conditions which allow the correct documentation to be presented at the BLS or consequence.
Yes, very good. Lollipy says, good morning. I'm at work at the moment, so sneaking in on the quiet. Naughty. And Robbo says, also medical report is what's ONCU, doctor's confirmation you don't have any contagious diseases. Yes, that's just what Chris said earlier. We're a bit behind on these. All these messages came in about 20 minutes ago. That's why. Robbo's got to shoot, so and he's looking forward to speaking with you, Chris, on Monday. And Barry from Unitech joined us about a quarter of an hour ago, a bit late this morning. I have a note from my gran. There we go. And Lolly P says, muffled Chris, but that was way back when, and he's quite fine now. And, Barry says, when I come over to see you guys, will I need to register my UK car to visit in any of these city low emission zones?
Well, that's a good question.
No.
You haven't got the correct seat to go into the middle of Barcelona and Madrid. Why would you want to drive there anyway? That's a better question. If you're on holiday, don't drive to the middle of Barcelona and Madrid.
No.
If they have implied it in Malaga, then I don't know. We'd have to find that out because I'm sure you'd be able to get.
I think you can get a Spanish one because the English one won't work.
You can get France. So if you can get them in France, why wouldn't you be able to get them?
Yeah, you can definitely get a French one because I've had people say it before. in the comments that they've got one. And
my car at the moment, which my dad got, I can't get it off.
yeah, so it's I suppose the tricky bit is, how do you apply as a UK citizen and you're just on holiday?
Well,
do you just apply the same as a Spanish citizen at the post office?
I'm going to ask.
Yeah, we'll find out that one for the next show.
So can you get a emissions sticker for foreign vehicles?
Yeah.
So we need to find that out.
Cool. We'll give you the answer on the next show. Next question. Paul Cook says, I have a Berlingo 2007 5-seat combi registered mixed adaptable. Would like to change to Turismo. Been told not easy because of Contrasena code, but have read it can be done. Any advice?
Yeah, you need to find. So yeah, it can be done, but most of the time, I'd say for a Berlingo 2007, it wouldn't be worth it. I'm assuming the vehicle's already registered in Spain, and you basically need to go to one of these technical companies, and it's an adjustment in the homologation of the vehicle, which means they have to do it's like a one-off homologation document to change the category of that vehicle. So we've got a company here in Malaga that actually do it, but for that kind of exchange, you might find that the paperwork alone, aside from the ITV, runs at 500, 600, 700 euros. Just to put that into context, we had a friend of mine recently added a swivel seat to a Spanish registered motorhome, which you had to get homologated, and the paperwork was 400 euros, and they never visited the vehicle. So it can be done, but you need a technician to do the homologation for you, and then it gets presented to the ITV, and it's normally very expensive.
Right, thank you for that. And a quick question from Maria, which I can answer. Can we exchange our US license for a Spanish driving license this is, or do we need to take a driving test? You do need to take a driving test. That's the simple answer. It's only if you've got another EU license that you can swap it, or now the UK residents, UK license holders are allowed to, and they have to do it within 6 months. Otherwise, they can't drive on their UK license. There you go. I think that covers it, Chris. Yeah. Lolly says, that was the wrong one. Is this ILEX or ULEX zone the same as showing the verification in the car window at France? You can pre-purchase from France. Yes, it is. It's a sticker that goes in your windscreen. Yeah. And you want the C sticker, presumably the same as I've got in mine. Yeah. And if you're resident in Spain and you've got a Spanish car, they're very easy to get. There we go. That's the one. And Barry says, I have one for Brussels when I go over there. Yeah, so there must be an easy way of getting one as a non-resident.
It's got to be. We're going to find that out. I've got one of our packs here. I didn't think to get it out. I can show you this one.
Aha. Lolly said we did this online before. Travel online. Printed out and travelled. Okay, so there's an online way of getting it. Brilliant. Where did you go to for that, Lolly? But she also says verification of vehicle emission certificates printed and displayed whilst travelling through France. Suppose Spain would be safe on pre-travel, so ready to go.
I'll have to check with the post office and see what they say.
Yeah. Yes. Definitely sounds like there's an online portal where you can just go and get one printed off, given the right documents.
I know when we did the Upsticks Drive one, they said they posted it out to my dad's house. So he did an online thing, they posted it out and stuck a stick in the window.
There we go. Jen says, not meaning to take you off topic. No problem at all, Jen. I did say in the video introduction that Chris could answer any questions relating to residency and stuff. The health insurance question has come up. Thanks to Chris for our call last month. When completing your health insurance app, do they require UK GP records?
Depends. Sometimes it depends what they pick up. So I'll do a study. Most insurance companies will have a look at how you answer the questions, and if they want to know more, they may ask for the records. So I don't think it's a prerequisite, but you'd certainly be ready to send them if needed.
Excellent. Oh, Saxtabulous says, thanks again. How many sugars? No sugars in mine. I'm diabetic. But buy me as many coffees as you want. I'll just down them all in one. And Lolly P says, travelled to Spain via France in 2015. That's good to know. Yes, if anybody else wants to buy me a coffee, I haven't got the thing in the corner of the screen. Hang on a minute. Where did they go?
Took it off for our podcast.
I did, didn't I? Where is it? Donate. Buy me a coffee. There it is. Everybody. There's the donate QR code. I thought there was something missing from my screen. So, yes, you can do that now if you want. Sorry about that. It's the lack of coffee, so that's why I need them. So, I tell you what then, as it's 20 past 11, we don't want to go too much past 1:30, really, because that's a long show. Let's have a quick look at the 3 T's, because this is all about what you to do when you arrive in Spain. And we've done a couple of these shows before, at least, and you call it the 3 T's. So take us through them fairly quickly.
So we have the tax, technical, and traffic code. That's what we call the 3 T's. So basically, the tax is your tax obligations when you register a vehicle in Spain. So non-EU vehicles will have the customs tax obligations or customs tax waiver, which is, we call that here aduanas. Okay, so that's import. EU vehicles don't have that stage, so you don't have to go through the stage of presenting the documents to customs and either paying or waiving tax. So we've gone through what you need to waive tax, but for example, when we bought the Upsticks Drive car in, we had to pay the import tax. And as a resident, I still had to present all my details and proof of the value of the vehicle and the fact that I'd actually bought the vehicle, which I didn't, from a family member, but they wanted a sales contract between us, so it was easier just to fabricate one, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. Then we have the emissions tax, which is an EU law basically, which if your vehicle has, it depends on the age of the vehicle, the original sale price of the vehicle, and the emissions rating, which good thing is nowadays that actually comes down quite a bit. Years ago you see big taxes. Nowadays most vehicles don't even qualify for it. You have the change of ownership tax here in Spain. If you're a resident, like I was when I bought the Upsticks Drive car over, it's in someone else's name because we need to do that for insurance purposes. They charged me for the transfer of ownership of that vehicle as well. I got clobbered for every tax with a car. I must love it. And so when people say, "Oh, can I get away with this tax?" I'm like, "No, I couldn't even get away with it. There's not one, you know." And then you have road tax, which is IVTM in Puesto de Vehículos de Tracción Mecánica. That's what that stands for. And everybody has to pay road tax in Spain. But the good news is it's normally a lot lower than in the UK, unless you've got a very, very low emission vehicle. The road tax is paid on a yearly or biannual basis, depending on where you are. So that's the tax that you opt for when you register a vehicle.
Mm-hmm. So the second T?
The second T, technical. All vehicles have to go through an ITV inspection. Now, there's always a little bit of, there's always questions surrounding, well, if it's an EU vehicle, it's already got an inspection, does it need it? Because I read that it didn't have to have one. They're very clever here because no, it doesn't have to have one, but it still has to have the verification test to prove that it's actually here and it is what you're saying it is. And it costs exactly the same, well, a little bit less, but not much less than the normal ITV test itself. So when you bring a vehicle in, you need an ITV because before you can register it, the ITV station gives you your ficha técnica, which is this document here. So if you want, we can go through the folder very, very quickly in a minute.
Yep.
That, so I'll flicker in now. There we go.
The
ITV basically is the Inspección Técnica de Vehículos, and that verifies the vehicle. They check that it's roadworthy and it is the vehicle you're actually saying it is. Mm-hmm. Basically. Then once that passes, they give you a document which allows you to continue with the registration of the vehicle.
Brilliant.
And then Trafico is the equivalent to the DVLA in the UK. Once you've gone through all the process of collecting all your documents, your tax payments, your ITB, and all your residency documents, they get thrown in a big bundle to Trafico. Trafico check them all, and if they're happy, they will register the vehicle and issue with a registration number.
Brilliant. It's that simple.
That's simple. And then once that happens, you get, just going to do a bit of promotion now.
Mm-hmm.
So we have, when we hand out our vehicle stuff, we have, yay. And so when it's registered and you've got your final plates, this is what you get from us, just to prove what you have to carry in your car. All right. So additional information is. They're
doing a lot of that. They're talking about doing it all digitally soon in Spain. So you don't have to carry all your documents in the glove box.
Well, they do it with the driving licenses already, and they do it with the features, which I'll explain now when I show the documents. So this is on our website as well. We always put this document in there for you, essential documents to carry in your car. Now, when your vehicle's registered, you get 2 documents. Which I should have had prepared. I'm very sorry. As we said, when you pass the ITV, you get this document, which shows your ITV test on the back there, and when you need to go to your next inspection. Now, new vehicles in Spain don't have this. They do, but they have a print of it on a white piece of paper, and they don't even inspect the original document when you go to an ITV. It's all done digitally. For imports, even for newer vehicles, they still have this document at the moment. Okay, that's proof it's been through the import registration. Now, whether they're going to move that onto a digital platform, we don't know yet. But the old vehicles who are registered, new vehicles registered in Spain, these are being phased out and have been for the last 6 or 7 years. They've all gone onto this printed digital platform. But for registrations, they're still getting this for the time being. Once you've registered your vehicle, and it's in your name, and you get, I can't show you the inside of this, you get a document like that. That is your permission to circulate in Spain. It proves that's your ownership document, and it proves that the vehicle is in your name.
So it's not like it's almost like half of the logbook that you get in the UK. The logbook is like that and the Ficha Technica combined together, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. And the only difference is that this document stays with the car forever unless you lose it, right? Then you have to get a replacement. But that never changes. It doesn't figure any names on it or the owners or anything like that. That belongs to the car. It's its technical specification. It's part of the car. This is the ownership document, which every time the car is sold, etc., this is changed.
Great stuff. Sorry, I've gone off headphones. They've given up on me. That's all right. Yes, they only last for about an hour and a half on here, but there you go. Okay, so that's the 3 T's.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants to know any more on that, then I guess get in touch with Chris directly, or we could answer any more questions on next week's show about that.
But they get in touch with me as far as the email address. You're not alone.
There you go. So, Jed says, what do you find is the demographic of people from the UK moving to Spain? I qualify for my UK pension next year, and Spain is becoming very attractive. Well, it is a lovely place to live. The demographic of people watching this channel, that's what I know about. 45 to 55, there's a few, mostly 55 to 65s, and slightly fewer 65 and over. So it tends to be the greatest number of people either who've retired early or who are moving towards retirement very, very closely, and want to have a warmer and better life and better quality of life in Spain. So is that about the same for you, Chris?
Yeah, it's certainly since Brexit, because it's hard to pick British transport work, so we more family.
Great stuff. And Barry says, there we go, just saying thanks to Lolly. He drove to Mallorca via Barcelona many years ago before all this emission nonsense. It's not nonsense. It's good for the planet, Barry. Get with the 21st century. There we go. Anything else we need to say before we wrap up?
No, I think that's it, really. But obviously, if you've got any more questions, I'm happy to answer next week.
Brilliant. So, just before we go then, any more live chat questions and comments before I tell you who's on next week's show? I've already mentioned it earlier in the show, but there we go. While we're waiting for any more questions to come in because of the time delay, let me just remind you that if you have any more questions or comments after we go off the air, put them in the YouTube comments below, not on some random Facebook expat group because it won't help enough people. Put it on here on YouTube, then everybody can get the answers and help that you need. And it will all help with the algorithm, thanks to Jen, who did put commenting for the algorithm. That is really important. Yeah, the more you comment, then the better it is for YouTooSpain and for the watchers, because it gets pushed up in the rankings. More people see it, more people get help. So yeah, and don't forget to smash the like button if you haven't already. Don't click it twice because that just cancels out the first click. And subscribe and click on the bell if you haven't already too, so you'll be the first to know what's coming up each week on the live shows and the midweek videos. So let's have a quick look, seeing at the live chat, and we have something from Paul Cook. I still may want to change my Berlingo to Turismo as it's low kilometers and will keep it a while. Can you give me details if someone can help?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, and Ant says muchas gracias as always. Pasar un bien día. Yeah, have a great day, everybody. Thanks for that, and a lovely bit of Spanish for the end of the show. So that is all the questions for now. I'm sure you have more. But just before we go, let's find out what's happening on next week's show. Well, as we mentioned before, Chris is back again. We are on 3 times this month, which is brilliant. And we said we're going to be talking about permanent residency. And that's how to prepare for it during your 5 years of temporary residency, new teeth, and how to get it. And of course, Chris can answer all of your questions general questions about residency and visas and cars too. There's a question from Ken down there. He says, I think I'll just buy a car in Spain, lol. What's the best website to use, similar to Auto Trader in the UK? I'm near Malaga. Any good big garages? There is a magazine, isn't there? A bit like Auto Trader, or an online thing.
Coaches on there to depending on what you're doing, consider to one of the dealers going to the main dealer there, for example, it's Malaga. That's what we have here, and we're from it's now I didn't premium there. They sort of pay for that and
great stuff. And John the Joiner says, thanks lads, this is my algorithm comment. Gracias and EAT. So make sure you have your questions ready for next week, or just prepare yourself for a lovely chat. In the meantime, you can ask questions in advance on our Facebook page. There's also a Facebook group. One of those is the Facebook page is a public one. The Facebook group is a private one. Or you can ask under any of the videos like this one. So, huge thanks to Chris, and get well soon to Lara for being wonderful and lovely. And thanks once again to everybody for joining us on the live chat, and to you for watching the video back afterwards and leaving comments too, hitting the like button. Buymeacoffee.com, you can still do that even after the show's finished, because there's a link in the comments and in the video description below. I'll put a link in the comments too. I'll pin it to the top. And I will see you either on the Wednesday evening video or on the video diary, which hopefully is coming out later on today, or live on Saturday mornings on this show at our regular time of 9 o'clock if you're in the UK or Ireland or the Canary Islands, or 10 o'clock, of course, if you're on Spanish time or Central European time, or 4 o'clock in the morning if you're one of our US viewers from the East Coast. That's right, the East Coast, yeah, the New York coast. That's all for this week then. Someone pass around the matriculación cookies. Peace and love to everybody. Peace and fluff. And yes, away from Chris. And here is one final message from all of us here at YouTooSpain.
Bye, lads. Bye. Goodbye. Toodaloo. Peace and love. Peace and fluff. Oi, oi. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. One more cosmic dance? All right, then. Look, Mum, I'm dancing. Oh, I'm all a quiver. Let's dance.